Hello, everyone. We will be starting in 2 minutes. We will be starting in 2 minutes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Prevention Action Alliance's monthly advocacy webinar. My name is JP Dorval, and I am the Manager of Legislative Affairs and Administrative Services here at Prevention Action Alliance. With us today, we have our Executive Director, Marcie Seidel, as well. Today's webinar will focus on the usual topics, updates from the Ohio Legislature, along with updates from the medical marijuana program. Also, just as a reminder, feel free to submit any questions that you may have over the course of the webinar or at the end. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So thanks for your participation. All right, so let's get started. First thing I want to talk about today is the biennial budget. So just as a recap, this budget passed out of the House on Thursday, May 9th through an 85-9 vote. It is currently in Senate Finance, and the substitute bill comes out today. So they have new language. There's a few changes. The changes that we are going to be looking at, or the possible changes that we're going to be keeping an eye on / looking at, are changes for the Tobacco 21 language. Just as another reminder, the Ohio Prevention Advocacy Network, OPAN, along with Prevention Action Alliance, gave testimony on the budget. Prevention Action Alliance testified specifically about the Tobacco 21 language, and there are a bunch of other individuals who did as well. And in that committee hearing, and that was a committee hearing in the House, in that committee hearing, or in the Senate, I have no idea. But in that committee hearing, actually it wasn't the Senate. In that committee hearing, they decided, at least they said verbally, that there was going to be a change to the language, some sort of compromise that they agreed on. So we're waiting to see what that compromise looks like when it comes to language. And also there has been rumors here and there about some changes in some of the appropriations for behavioral health and things like that. So we're going to keep an eye out on that. But that comes out today. If anything comes up that we find alarming, both Prevention Action Alliance and the Ohio Prevention Advocacy Network plans to testify. But if not, we might just submit written testimony if the levels remain the same. Because as of right now, at least as of yesterday, the bill was a pretty good bill. The budget was a pretty good bill. So if anything changes for the worse, then we'll testify. But if not, we'll submit written testimony on that. There will be public testimony or public hearings this week. So today there will be a hearing when it comes to higher education, but for Wednesday and Thursday, and I believe Friday as well, but Wednesday and Thursday, there will be public hearings on it, so on any topic within the budget. So If you would like to testify, just let us know. I can always submit a witness slip for you guys. Testifying does not count as lobbying. So for those of you who are afraid to testify because you don't know if it would, break lobbying rules and things like that, or trigger the lobbying requirement, don't worry about that, because testifying in committee does not count as lobbying. And if there are no questions regarding that, let's move on to the next thing. So before I go into the other priority bills that Prevention Action Alliance is focusing on around this time, I just want to give you guys a recap or an update on Substantive Bill 57. This was the bill that legalized the growing of hemp in Ohio. Sponsors are, actually the sponsors are incorrect on this. But the sponsor of this bill is Senator Huffman, so disregard the sponsors I have up there. So this recently passed out of the House Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development, and was referred to the floor. So as you may recall, Prevention Action Alliance was trying to get a cannabis educational awareness campaign, or at least funding for a cannabis educational campaign through this bill. That push fell flat only because the sponsor, Senator Steve Huffman, did not want to connect this bill to any part of the medical marijuana program, and he saw that campaign as connecting this bill to the medical marijuana program, which he was against, and the chair of the committee kind of deferred to the sponsor for that decision. So we kind of ran into a wall with that. However, we are currently working on other avenues to see if we can get that passed. The stakeholders of this bill on both sides are unhappy. A sub-bill did come out before this bill was voted out of committee, and the sub-bill for many on the pro side is too restrictive. So they're unhappy about that, and obviously the opponents remained opponents. So all around, people are unhappy. So it's we'll be keeping a close eye to see how this bill is received on the floor. There may be floor amendments. We have no idea, but we'll keep you guys updated on that. So next priority that we have is House Bill number 10, and this is a bill that would create a Governor's Office of Drug Policy in the Governor's Office. And for those of you who are used to reading up and paying attention to legislative news, you might have heard last General Assembly rumors about the creation of a drug czar, quote unquote. So this is the same bill. This bill would create an Office of Drug Policy, similar in size to the Ohio Consumers Council, and this office would be a connector really for any drug-related efforts in Ohio. And one of the sponsors, Representative Brown, is a huge proponent of prevention. He really has a very good understanding of prevention. The good thing is he also understands that he's not an expert. He's willing to listen to the experts. So this bill, along with creating this office, has a $5.5 million appropriation. That's 5.5 per year. So that's 11 over the course of the biennium, over the course of 2 years. So that's a lot of funding. Some of this funding would obviously go to the staff costs and maintenance of this office. There's going to be a helpline or call line created so people can call into this office asking, where can I get treatment? Where can I find prevention services? And the operator would direct them to the different resources. So there will be a call line created. I'm not quite sure how many staff members will be placed in here, but there will be an executive director, and this would be housed in the governor's office and would be put into statute so that regardless of who's in office, this office would stay. So it's a very good bill. Obviously, the $11 million appropriation over 2 years is something that we're very interested in. Some of that funding could be used to create the cannabis educational campaign, because within this bill, there's also language about creating educational campaigns around prevention, around just healthy lifestyles, treatment, recovery, stuff like that. So it's a very good bill. And as I said, Representative Brown is a huge proponent of prevention. So This is something that we're very interested in. If you would like to get involved in any way, at this point, the bill is in Finance Committee. It wasn't House Health, but now it's in House Finance. Most likely going to get passed out because this is a priority for Speaker Householder. So this will hit the House floor without any objections. Our real fight will be in the Senate because this is a House priority, not a Senate priority. So we have to figure out how to get this passed through in the Senate. So please call your senators, asking them to support prevention funding, to support something like this. I do understand that people are, again, concerned about the lobbying aspect of it. And really, when talking to your senator about things like this, the best way to phrase it, if you are concerned, is to say, hey, as an agency, we support, or as an individual, I support prevention funding. I support increased support and representation of prevention at the state level, and they'll more or less understand where you're coming from, and they'll be able to link those comments to that bill without you breaking any lobbying rules. So that's really the way that you should phrase it. But this is a very good bill, something that we're very, very interested in. So please let me know if you would like to get involved. If you want to testify, let me know. Prevention Action Alliance plans to testify on this in the Senate. We've already testified on this in the House. And obviously, the Ohio Prevention Advocacy Network will also testify as well. So just let me know if you would like to get involved. Next bill that we are keeping a very close eye on is House Bill 12, the Ohio Children's Behavioral Health Prevention Stakeholder Group, sponsored by Representatives Manning and Representative West. And this bill will create the Ohio Children's Behavioral Health Prevention Network Stakeholder Group. That's a mouthful. But, in sum, this would be a group similar to Recovery Ohio. However, this group would focus in on prevention for K through 12 for children. I believe in the language it focuses in on younger children, so maybe, preschool age, elementary school age. But this is a good bill as well. We are trying to get prevention credentialing language in there because as of right now, the Director of Children's Initiatives in the Governor's Office is responsible for appointing individuals to this. And there are a few individuals listed out in the bill, the Director of Health, the Director of Mental Health and Addiction Services, obviously, and other individuals as well, and a few children's hospitals are listed in there. But we're trying to get language so that the bill specifically states that a person with an OPC, an OCPC, or any of the other prevention credentialing can get in there so that we can ensure that prevention professionals and advocates are at the table and, in that group. We aren't really concerned that the appointees want to include an individual who's specialized in prevention. We think that's pretty obvious, but we just want to make sure that's in the language as well. So that's really something that we're pushing for. But more or less, this is a good bill. For those who are curious, this bill is really a bill that came out of pushes that the children's hospitals did early in the General Assembly, and is also a priority bill for Speaker Householder. Children's hospitals are really getting into the behavioral health space now, especially nationwide. So it seems like this is just their way to bring themselves to the table. There are a lot of powerful backers behind this, a lot of politics about who can be in the group and who isn't included in the group. So we're going to keep a close eye on that, and obviously we'll testify on that as an interested party. And unless Marcie has anything else to add to those bills, I'll pass along to her.
Thanks, JP, and good morning to everybody. All right. All right. Can you hear me? I just was alerted that maybe our microphone was not working well, and I got.
Yeah, you should be good.
Okay, I think we're good now. Well, let me start again. The medical marijuana program is continuing to move along, and cultivators and dispensaries, while the number of those different entities are set in legislation, we have not all of them are open yet, and the certificates of operation are the things that we're tracking at this point. There are going to be 16 level 1, and there's 8 provisional licenses, and 13 level 2, and 9 provisional licenses for cultivators, but that's the same as last month. That nothing else new has opened at this point. Dispensaries has increased certificate of operation by 5 this month over last month. So there are more people that are able to get to their medical marijuana needs in the state. And this will continue to grow. There's some, as we mentioned before, there's some varying factors why it's slow to get these certificate of operations out. And lots of times it has to do with local regulations that they're trying to meet. They're slow in coming up with all the protocols that they said they were going to do in the application, and then actually doing them in the real life. Getting it done has been more difficult than I think some of them thought. So it's a slow process, but it is moving forward. Okay. The sales figures, I put up last month's sales figures and what was reported on June 8th, and you can see that they are significantly rising. We went from 750 pounds of plant material, and that's since it's opened in January, from January to the end of last month, and then of the sales, well, not last month, of April, and then the sales figures that were released on June 8th. And you can see they've really come up at 1,181 pounds of plant material. Units of manufactured pieces has really soared up compared to last month, about 4 times, not quite, but about. And then the dollars in product sales has boomed as well, so as the total receipts. So as you can see, the program is catching on, and it's growing in the communities. On our next slide here, I just use this as a placeholder because nothing on their information site has been updated, but as we can use this as a placeholder to come look back when they do update it, to see how we're tracking month by month on the number of patients and recommendations and things of that nature. So as I said, I just wanted to keep it in here and remind everybody, in case you missed last month, where we are in the actual recommendations of medical marijuana. Okay. Tomorrow, on June 12th at 10 o'clock a.m. in the Rhodes Tower, the State Medical Board of Ohio will be meeting. This is, I believe, their monthly meeting, which is quite in-depth. They will be tomorrow doing many things, but the 2 that we're most interested in is that they're going to be addressing the new substances or the new disorders that they want to be able to use to recommend marijuana for. There are 5 that were submitted in the process at the end of last year by people in the communities and in Ohio. And of the 5, there were 2, autism spectrum disorder and anxiety, that the committee that reviewed them all has decided to bring forth to the full board for determination tomorrow. I'm going to be attending that meeting. I am very concerned about autism spectrum disorder and anxiety. When you look at lots of literature, especially anxiety, there's a lot of things that will indicate that marijuana itself will cause anxiety. And autism, which is certainly the spectrum disorder, is certainly something we don't know enough about, nor do we know enough about with marijuana to see how that would react and how that would affect the young person that has that condition. So I am very concerned about all of these, and I'm not sure where they're coming from to even recommend them and it's a big concern for me. So I will be down there taking note about what's going on, and if possible, speak to individuals about our concerns in this area. So that's tomorrow. So if anyone's really interested in wanting to come in and watch what happens there, it's an open meeting. I doubt that they will take spectator comments. In fact, I'm pretty sure they won't, but they will allow people to come in and see what the discussion is all about, which I'm hoping will be very helpful for us, and I will report back to you next month about what I learn at that point. All right, our next Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee, which I am a part of, will meet on Thursday. So this is a big marijuana week. The meeting will be at 10 o'clock at the Vern Rife Center on the 31st floor, the rooms South B and C. We will be doing our standard updates from the entire program, so all the very newest information will be given to us at that meeting. And again, I'll report back to you on it. It too is an open meeting, so if anyone wants to come down and see what's happening, you can certainly can and be a part of the audience, but again, no audience participation. One of the things that's happening, Mark Hamill works for the Ohio Department of Commerce and heads up the medical marijuana control program for that particular agency, and he is leaving the department. We received notice of that earlier this week. He was a great advocate for making sure that things were done well. He was very respectful of our opinions about how things should be handled, but he is leaving and taking a job with the Ohio Department of Insurance. And a gentleman whom I do not know, but looking forward to meeting, is Greg McIlvain, and he is joining the program to take over for that particular part of the Ohio Commerce. The other thing that I think that we just need to put on our radar is that I was sent a notice from a colleague yesterday that Motley Fool has listed out 5 different states that they believe will be heading towards full legalization of marijuana within the next year or two. And the first one that they believe will be Ohio, and they, according to their vision, would happen even yet this year. So it sounds like there is a very quiet movement to get signatures and to go through the system of getting something on the ballot. And I'm finding that hard to believe. The rumor is, and I will just say that, the rumor is of an individual that's very pro-marijuana in the state of Ohio and have crossed paths with this individual many, many times, and not really sure that I truly believe that it will go this year, but anything is possible. And I think it just puts, again, for us, all of us, again, on our radar for what we need to do, because we know that it probably is coming. According to the article that we read, they believe, as they've been watching and studying Ohio and all that's happened through the marijuana issue throughout the United States, they believe that Ohio has a better than 50-50 chance of it passing. So it's time for us, again, to do a lot of education, which I think is what we are going to do, here and been trying to do, is to ramp up the ability to get an educational plan up and going before it becomes a ballot initiative, because then it becomes a different animal and may not be receptive until after it passes. So a lot of effort's going to have to go into trying to get this educational plan up and going and moving before we get a ballot initiative. While it may or may not happen this year, there's a lot of people on the street that believe it will go next year, be in the presidential race. So I think we need to kind of strap on our gear and get ready to go to start educating in Ohio about the realities of legalized marijuana in the state of Ohio. So let's see, I think that's it that I have for today. Look forward to talking to any of you about questions or concerns or ideas that you have. Again, your ideas are important to us. A lot of what that we talk about here is things that we learn from you, and that we can pass that along to the legislature. So what you have to say and what you are interested in is really important to us. So thank you. JP?
Thank you, Marcie. So we do have a question about Senate Bill 3, but before I respond to that, to the viewer that informed me that the audio was not working, thank you. Thank you for that. So yeah, Senate Bill 3, and this is the criminal sentencing reform bill that is a priority of Senator Oppoff, who's the president of the Senate, and is sponsored by Senators Eklund and Senators O'Brien, so it is bipartisan. So this bill has a sixth hearing tomorrow in Senate Judiciary with possible amendments to be added to that bill. So the interesting thing about Senate Bill 3 and the reason why I didn't have it as one of the bills that we're paying super close attention to is because as of right now, the language has been in works behind closed doors. I would have to check, but I still think that the language, at least the summary and the actual bill language, still is not up on the Senate website. So they've been really tweaking things and changing things regarding this bill and the creation of new drug classifications and things like that without publicizing a lot of it. So it's really hard for us to figure out, what has changed. I do have the original language along with the original summary that was given out at the start of the General Assembly. So if anyone is interested in reading up on that, it's a very long bill. But if anyone's interested in reading up on that, just let me know. I can always send that to you because for some reason it's still not online. But yes, the bill is going to get a hearing tomorrow. It's going to be the sixth hearing with a possible amendment to be added. And just as a reminder, this is a Senate priority, not necessarily a House priority. So when this bill does pass through the Senate, which it will, once it hits the House, it's as if we're starting from square one. I have no idea how House Holder feels about that. And the same goes for House Bill 10 and House Bill 12. Once those bills go to the Senate, it's almost like we're starting from ground zero because I have no idea how Oppoff feels about that. So these priority bills are priority bills for only one chamber. So once it goes to the other chamber, all is fair game. So I believe once it hits the House, we'll definitely get more involved. But as of right now, we're kind of waiting to see how the language shakes out in the Senate because it has changed a lot. I do know people were concerned about the sentencing for fentanyl trafficking, things like that. Not quite sure where that is. But apparently the sponsors have been very receptive to comments and asks for language tweaks. So we'll see how the language shakes out in the Senate. But as of right now, another hearing is going to be the sixth hearing, new amendments to be added. So we'll see how that language turns out going forward. And I will wait around for another probably 2 minutes to see if we have any questions that roll in. Alrighty, well, it does not seem like we have any additional questions. So I'm going to wrap up the webinar a little early today, 2 minutes to spare. But thank you everyone for tuning in. If you have any additional questions or anything that pops into your head after we end this, feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to call us. If you have any questions regarding something happening in the legislature, feel free to call. Our number is 614-540-9985. My extension is 22. I kind of live and breathe this legislative stuff, so I'm more than happy to talk about any of these things with any of you. So if you want to flag something for me, if you just want to have a discussion, or you just don't understand what's happening, and you kind of want another perspective, or you think I can be of help, just let me know. If you're interested in testifying, just let me know. But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.